Welcome everyone to the Coaches Show right here on CSI Sportsnet, broadcasting live on CSIDolphins.com and of course on our YouTube page at CSI Sportsnet. This is episode 5 of the Coaches Show. We will be premiering in February of 2020. My name is David Pizzuto, co-host of the Coaches Show. Our other co-host, Joseph Foreman, is behind the cameras today, bringing you all the sights and sounds from today's episode. And our featured guest on the February edition of the Coaches Show is men's basketball head coach TJ Tibbs. So time now to introduce our man of honor, TJ Tibbs. TJ, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, of course, for having me. This is great. I've seen all of them, and I'm looking forward to this.
Definitely. I'm looking forward to a great meal today as we are broadcasting live from the Kettle Black. We broadcast every week, every month from either the Kettle Black or Hobra, a taco joint. And today we're lucky enough to be at Kettle. Always good food here at Kettle, TJ.
Always great food. I mean, I love coming here myself personally, and excited to try something new off the menu today too.
Awesome. Same thing for me. I'm having every time I come here, I try something new and never disappoints. So T, usually when I host these shows, I like to start with an anecdote. So I actually have 2 anecdotes about you that I like to share, and we can talk about them both. The first one is the very first time we met, which was under, it was a difficult time because you were a student and you attended a volleyball game. And I was doing the public address during that game, and fired up as TJ always is. He was very loud, very rambunctious in the crowd, and one of the officials came over and said, "You need to tell that kid to calm down in the stands. He's saying some critical words on the other team." And so I addressed you on the mic, and I don't know, you said something back to me, and I said something back to you, and you stormed up with Kahari Rollick, one of our former other players, and stormed out. So it wasn't until 2 or 3 days later where we looked at each other in the student lounge, and I said, "Are you good?" And you're like, "Are you good?" And then you ended up wanting to speak to me, and we kind of hashed out what happened. But we didn't get off to a great start, you and I.
Well, I would say that, looking back at it, I thought that was a great start because, a lot of times you deal with adults when you're a young kid, and it's usually what they say goes. And what I learned a lot about you from that time, and obviously when I interviewed for the job, that was something that was very prevalent in my mind of why I wanted to come back, was that you were open to discussion and you weren't stubborn or headstrong, and we seen things from a different lens. I was somebody, and still somebody, who just wants to support all teams. Our volleyball team wasn't particularly great at the time, and I actually thought we were having a positive effect on the game. We were coming back. I still remember that we lost. We came back from 2 down, and we tied it 2-2. I left, and we lost. We lost. And no, it was just me trying to have a lot of fun as a college kid, and learning a lot from you, and about situations and how to do things and communicating, and I actually thought that got us off to a great start.
No, I'm appreciative of that, and being on that other side of the court now for Sportsnet purposes a lot, you realize that the stuff that goes on during basketball games, you can't get away with in volleyball games. It's like 2 different type of crowds, and the officials have to learn to accept a lot more during basketball than volleyball. Volleyball, you say,
right,
you even just raise your voice to cheer, it's going to be taken as what is going on
right
here.
And I think that was my biggest point at the time, is that being a student athlete, I heard so many crazy things that we kind of just we just brush off to the side because it's kind of part of the game. But we, myself and the teammates, and Kahari was a freshman at the time, so we wanted to make sure that we were supporting everybody, and I thought that was the biggest thing. And I actually thought the other coach on the other team and the official, they knew that we were having an impact on the game. For the record, I didn't say anything disrespectful. We were just loud and really, we were annoying the other team. So, looking at it now as a coach too, we hear a lot of different things, but I think men's basketball, women's basketball is kind of a different beast because there are usually more people in the gym, and some things get drowned out. But we hear a lot of different things during games.
And the other anecdote that I want to bring up is something that has really always stood out to me, and it's kind of how I've always remembered you, even when you left CSI as a graduate, and how I will forever remember our exchanges. Your junior year, you lose the CUNY championship. It's a tough game. We lost to Medgar. It was a game that I think our team believed we could have and should have won, and we were disappointed we lost. We come back senior year, and we're in the championship again. We're playing Medgar again. It's a hard-fought game. it comes down to the very last possession, we win the game. Everybody's in hysterics. It's our first win in a while. You're grabbing the ball, you're romping around. Everybody wants to touch you, be around you. And I remember, clear as day, myself and Mike Babusky are on the other side of the court. We're calling the game. You made a beeline right over to us. You high-fived us and you said, this is for you guys. This is for you two. This is about you guys. And listen, I'm not naive enough to know it wasn't really about us. It's about you guys and what you've accomplished. But the way you made me feel that day, I think it truly speaks to the character you are, because I think with everything going on in that moment, and as great a moment as that was, for you to even think that we were there calling the game in that capacity and to make it a point to come over to us and say something about it, that's only happened in my career, 20 plus years, 3 times where a kid has said, this is for you guys, we dedicate this to you. And that just made me feel like $100. You couldn't cut me a check big enough for work that week, and it's always how I remember you, because it speaks so much more to your character than the way you played and the way you coached.
Well, I appreciate that, because I really meant that, and I still do, because everybody who's in a support role is really the biggest part of the programs. And for me, myself, a lot of my family, even family that I don't have with me now, would tune into those games, whether it be a sports net. We had the radio station that was doing it too, as well, at the time. So yeah, I know in particular my Aunt Patty, rest in peace, she couldn't really make it to a lot of games, but she always tuned in one way or another. So those roles were really big, because she still felt like she was a part of everything that I was doing, because she was able to follow everybody. And then just looking over, and no matter what gym you are, I remember clear as day my first 2 games playing at Wesleyan when I was a junior, and you and Mike Babusky were calling the games. And I didn't know anything about anything. I didn't know anything about you guys. But I still vividly remember a lot of those calls and a lot of those big moments that were some of my first moments as a CSI athlete. So everybody has a big part in things that we do. And thank you very much. Everybody has a big part in what we do, and even to this day, it's just, it's a big part of like my parents and how they raised me. Is you don't do anything without the help of others. There's no such thing as a self-made man. Like, you always have some help from somebody else. So I didn't remember that, but I do remember going over to a couple of people that I really felt had a big part to do with it. And I also remember telling everybody that would listen at the time that, listen, this is great, but we're not done. I feel like we have so much more left to accomplish.
Yeah, and you guys did accomplish a tremendous amount, and I know even after that season where the team advanced all the way to the NCAA Sweet 16, I know when you have a chance to reflect on it, it was a tremendous moment. It was a great accomplishment, but there was still a lot of more talk with you and your teammates about what we could have done in that Sweet 16 game, and if they only didn't make that run to start the game, if they only didn't get down. So there's still that notion of what could have been.
Yeah, I tell everybody now, and it's such a great accomplishment, and will now go down as the best accomplishment in our Division III history. But I just feel like we left so much more on the table, and there really hasn't been a season in my life and anything where I felt like that we did overachieve and that we did reach our potential. But you got to give a lot of credit to MIT. The pod that we were in with MIT, Amherst, and Franklin and Marshall, who was the host, I mean, they were all top 10 teams. We were never thought of a top 25 team, but we thought we were the best team in the country. And MIT in that actual game presented a lot of different challenges that we hadn't seen up until that point. We were actually really worried about one of their big guys who was a transfer from Brown, who had 38 points in the previous game against another 7-foot big guy. And, one of their guys, Jamie Carrick, I remember like yesterday, he had 7 threes in the first half. It was just too much to overcome. But there's no regrets at all. Sure. We definitely played our hardest. I remember that's the only game in my career I fouled out, and walking off the court was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. But it was easy because you look up behind our bench and there were over 100 CSI fans that made the trip to Lancaster, PA for the game. So yeah, we definitely, a lot of my teammates were coming up close to like 10 years ago when it happened. A lot of my teammates, we still talk about it, but we always talk about man, we should have won a national championship, and we feel that way, especially for Coach Pizzuto, who we all love and adore.
Yeah, so, that Sweet 16 team was something great. It obviously was the culmination of your short playing career at CSI. What I want to do is back up just a little bit and talk about you as a youth. I know that you were a football player in high school too, if I'm not mistaken, along with basketball. But even before that, was sports always a part of your life growing up?
Yeah, for as long as I remember. My earliest memories of sport is my dad playing sports, taking me to games. There's actually a story when I was born. My dad was playing in a men's league softball game, and my mom went into labor, and my dad came to the hospital and see me was born, spent time, and he said, "All good, 10 fingers, 10 toes," because we got a second game of a doubleheader, and he had out to play the second game. I have tons of stories of being in a carriage with my godparents, and I had a net over my carriage, and a foul ball got hit, and it bounced off the net. But my dad was somebody who played a lot of sports growing up. Being a lifelong Staten Islander, and him being a lifelong Staten Islander, I hear a lot of stories about him, and I always have time when somebody grabs me. But yeah, from 5 years old, I played baseball, basketball, and football. My parents always found a way to put me in something. I don't know how they did it. They were always at every game. If it wasn't both of them, it was one of them. And a lot of those moments, even going through high school, where I got there and I decided I wanted to focus on basketball originally because I went to St. Peter's, and it's such an illustrious history of basketball that I was so worried about just being a small part. But I ended up playing a couple of sports, running track at St. Peter's, and having a great time. So I'm a huge believer in playing multiple sports. I have so many friends in my life now from sports, so many relationships. My fiance I met her through basketball. I'm so grateful for all the lessons that I was taught. Able to fail in different sports, able to lose a lot and learn how to bounce back, and able to deal with a lot of different people because in basketball you see certain types of people, in football you see certain types of people and families, in baseball you see certain types of people and families. So I've been exposed to so many people, so it's allowed me to have such a great perspective in life because I've been around so many different people and families, and I'm really grateful for that.
Great. So one more question before we throw it to break and we start to order our food and we'll wait for it to get here. In high school, I got to watch you play a number of times. Number one, because of the Peters Curtis game for Thanksgiving Eve where you're at our facility, but I also worked for Time Warner Cable. We would keep stats, so every week we'd have a game in the week, and you were prevalent in those games as well back on Time Warner Cable when it existed, the sports network on Staten Island. And one of the things that I always took away from the way you played was that you were constantly talking on the court. Not talking trash or anything like that, but you were always engaged with your competitor, with your teammates. There would always be some, a little bit of jawing back and forth. So the competitive fire that existed in you was clear. It was visual. Is that always the way you kind of attacked sports? Is being super competitive?
Yeah, it's just in my blood. It's just it's a big reason why I coach. I can't see myself not being involved in something that's not competitive. Even now in practice, if we have a light shooting contest with the kids, it's never light. I want to win, and if I win, I'm letting them know that I won. But that also comes from my dad. He's a little bit different personality, but he's always taught me if they're keeping score, it matters. And if they're not keeping score, you should be keeping score in your own head. So I'm a product of my neighborhood. I'm very proud of where I'm from. I'm from Mariners Harbor. Whenever I leave Staten Island, people ask me where I'm from, I say Mariners Harbor, Staten Island. I don't say Staten Island, New York. And my neighborhood and where I'm from, and everybody that has come from my neighborhood, you have to fight for everything. And sometimes literally when you're growing up, you're fighting for things. But I'm very proud, and the friends I grew up with, I'm a proud graduate of PS44, Thomas Brown School in Mariners Harbor. Graduated 5th grade from there, and at the core of who I am is my neighborhood. Super competitive, love sports. And then I've also been fortunate in every sport that I've had to have outstanding coaches. Outstanding coaches who have pushed knowledge of my game and enabled me to learn more about the game because I've always seeked a little more, and outstanding men. I've had Glenn Payne coach me in basketball and baseball, who was former softball coach at Wagner College. Coach Nick, who's the head coach at Moore Catholic Football. Coach Rich Buckeye, who currently coaches Mater Dei High School. Coach Charlie Driscoll, who's the all-time winningest coach at St. Peter's. My father. I mean, tons of people. I'm leaving out. Jim Mahaney, who coached me in football. Guys that I could still call today, and they have an impact on me. So I'm really blessed that they've enabled me to learn a lot more about the game and to pass some of that on to the teammates while that stuff is going on. So I've always taken pride in being a leader and trying to be seen, felt, and heard as a leader. And I've been fortunate that I play with great people who've allowed me to be myself, and continue to build on that as I'm playing any sport.
Awesome. Well, obviously TJ is in his third season as head coach of the CSI men's basketball team, and that came off some other coaching stops and, of course, a college basketball playing history that ended at the College of Staten Island. We're going to learn a lot more about TJ's travels past high school that led him to the College of Staten Island. It's all going to come up right after this. TJ and I are going to order our meal, and then we'll get started right here live from the Kettle Black. It's the Coaches Show, February edition here, episode 5. Stay with us right here on CSI Sports Net.
The Kettle Black on Staten Island, a top 5 wing joint in America by Food and Wine magazine. Serving daily lunch and dinner at the bar or on the floor. Perfect for family and group parties with top shelf drink and delicious food. From great times with good friends. Live sports and watch parties. To Staten Island's hottest nightlife. The Kettle Black features live music and DJs weekly. The Kettle Black features daily and nightly food and drink specials. The best Staten Island has to offer is at the Kettle Black. We'll see you there at the Kettle Black, located on 415 Forest Avenue, Staten Island.
Hobra, a taco joint, Staten Island, where we're proud to have shared our family-first spirit with people from throughout New York City and the world. With indoor dining available both at the bar and on the floor. Or step outside for additional seating and an outdoor bar. Serving beer that's crisp, ice cold, and worthy of a day at the beach. Cocktails that explode with flavor. And great food made with the freshest and healthiest ingredients available. Events feature food and drink specials. Live music. And the best of Staten Island nightlife. Your CSI Student ID saves you 10% on your dine-in order at Hobra. Visit us at 412 Forest Avenue, Staten Island.
Welcome back to the Coaches Show, February 2020 edition right here on CSI Sportsnet, broadcasting on CSIDolphins.com and, of course, our YouTube page on CSI Sportsnet. David Pizzuto alongside TJ Tibbs. And TJ learned a little bit about how sports played in the backdrop of your life in your neighborhood, obviously growing up and then playing at St. Peter's High School. And then eventually the light bulb ticks off that basketball is going to be the sport that I pursue, that I take seriously, that I participate religiously in. At what point during your high school career does that happen for you, and when do you start looking at colleges?
It's a great question. So throughout my 4 years, I basically just played basketball. My junior year in the spring, I was sitting in homeroom, and the captain of the football team, they were having a discussion about football. They were like, okay, the year before, and one of the kids I used to play football with, I said, like, Tibbs could probably help us play football. He was pretty good when he was younger. And at that point, I had played soccer, I had played track, I had played baseball. So the kid kind of challenged me, like, you think you could play every sport? And I was like, when do you guys have practice? And like, we have a workout later today. So I went kind of just as to prove that I could do it. And then I just fell back in love with football. For total transparency, I love playing football, but once it gets cold outside, I'm just not the person. I'm just not a cold weather person at all. So then the coach asked me if I wanted to play, and I love the competitive energy. I thought we could be good. So we played our football season. We actually made it all the way to the championship and lost. And I was getting recruited for football more than I was getting recruited for basketball. And I had a dream of Penn State as my favorite football school. And I really wanted to go to Penn State and walk on and play on the football team. And I was asking my coaches to look into an opportunity to speak to the coaches to go walk on there. That didn't work out for some other reasons. But as the basketball season was going along, you know, I only heard from a couple of schools. One was a Division I school down south, which is Charleston Southern, who actually a coach from Petrides High School had put me in connection with. But I was always somebody that knew I didn't want to go that far away from home, so that never really materialized. And then there was just a couple of schools that were kind of reaching out, but everybody kind of had the same feeling that I was small and you know, my ability was always questioned. So I didn't know what I was going to do. Fortunately enough, Coach Dave Calloway from Monmouth University and his staff, through the help of Cormac Gordon, who used to write for the Advance, had invited me to walk on to the team. And once he did, I had seen Monmouth play because my dad had worked at Whiteman College, so I'd seen a ton of NEC games. Once that invite happened, they had just went to the NCAA tournament. I was just sold. No other school was even a question. Playing Division I was important for me, not competitively, but because I knew I wanted to coach. So I thought being around a program like that would really help my future. And you know, so then I made a decision to go to Monmouth, and that was the start of my college career.
And we'll talk about more of your college career. I think we have some food upcoming here. TJ.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I think we'll switch.
Right? Yep.
That's okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Right. So before we talk about your college career a little bit more, what did you order?
So I ordered a pulled pork sandwich on a brioche bun, lightly toasted, with some fries. I love the fries here. I've never had the pulled pork here. Like I said, I want to try something different, but this looks amazing. What did you get?
I have the Nunzio Parm. So the Nunzio wings are like the specialty, or one of the specialty wings here at Kettle. Just can't do the wings because of the fingers and the, you know, all that stuff. But they put it in a sandwich form, and they put some melted mozzarella cheese on it, so you can't go wrong. There's Parmesan in there as well, fried chicken. So looks good, and I'm sure Joe at some point will take a picture of whatever he's eating, which I think is the double protein bowl, which is part of their healthier options here. So TJ, dig in. I'll make sure I ask you lengthy questions, so allow you to take a few bites, and if you do the same for me, that'll work out just fine.
Sure.
So Monmouth is the first stop. And then, but it doesn't end there. Your career ultimately ends at CSI, but it takes a longer road to get there. So after your first year at Monmouth, you spent some time at Wagner College as well. Tell me a little bit about, you know, those transitions. What made you want to make those jumps, and where did basketball play into all that decision making?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think something like that is important, especially if there's any younger kids watching, because I took a very unconventional path, and I never thought it would be something like that. I never thought I'd be a kid like that. But I left Monmouth. I actually had some heart problems towards the tail end of the season, and we didn't know what was going on. I was on a heart monitor hooked up. I had to walk up with it, and I had to report things. It was a very scary time in my life. During that time, I realized, you know, I probably wasn't having the greatest time at school. I love the school. I love my teammates. My coaches were great, but it probably wasn't the best of fit. I had just made a decision to go because it was the only Division I school that would take me on the roster, and I kind of went sight unseen. I didn't see the campus before I made a decision to go. I mean, it's an awesome campus and a great place, and I lucked out with that, but I was looking for a different fit. When I left, I was still naive to the process. I didn't have any older cousins or brothers or sisters that ever went through it. So I took summer classes at Wagner. I was able to take it because my dad worked there. And while I was there, one of the coaches, Coach Marlon Sears, who's actually an assistant coach at Columbia now, came up to me and just actually came up in high school and asked what I was doing there. So I'm taking classes trying to figure out where I'm going to transfer to. Coach Pizzuto had actually called me, so this was the second time that he actually recruited me, and I had turned him down for the second time. So Coach Sia said it would be great if I could have a spot on their team, I could walk on. So then I was sold for that. They have another opportunity. They had a great team. I could learn a lot. A new staff. Mike Dean is an incredible coach. But what happened was nobody had told me. They were both in the NEC at the time. So when I transferred, not only did I have to sit out 1 year again because I redshirted at Monmouth, I was going to have to sit out 2 years. And that was just devastating. I found out the first day of classes, 6 a.m. for a workout, and I didn't know what to do. I was really lost. I had never not been a part of a team in my life, and so I started to work out a lot. Wagner had recruited me to play football, so I planned on joining the football team the next year. I joined the track team, which if you play any other sport than track, running is like your sport's punishment. So it's not the greatest thing in the world, but I wanted to be a part of something. And then things just really didn't work out. I spent another year at Wagner just being a student, and there was always something missing. I was actually on track to graduate early in 3.5 years. I was taking so much class, and I wanted to graduate early and get going in life. And then I forget the year it was. I really backtracked. I think it was 09, fall of 09. I was a semester away from graduating, and I decided that I just didn't want to go back to school. I was very lost. I was very confused. I miss playing sports, but I was very angry at Division I athletics and the business of it. And I took a year off, and I was coaching freshman basketball at Curtis High School. So while I was coaching freshman basketball and working, I realized how much I love the game, and I just have to play. So now it was me reaching out to Coach Pizzuto, trying to see if he would have me. And at first, truth be told, he gave me a very hard time about playing. He didn't believe I was going to play. He didn't make anything easy for me. And I used to go home every day and be angry at Coach Pizzuto to talk to my dad. And my dad said, well, if you turn somebody down, you're a coach, if you turn somebody down twice, how would you treat them? Would you welcome them with open arms, or did you think that they were, BSing? So I kept going, and fortunate enough, Coach Pizzuto has some patience, and a couple of the guys on the team were really pushing for me to be on the team. Guys like Dale Toronto, Jordan Young, Chris Macaron, the St. Peter's guys, and Coach gave me a chance, and really, shortly gave me the keys to the program and let me make decisions, and I'm forever grateful. It was the best decision. I would have never thought that going to the College of Staten Island, as being a Staten Island kid, would have been the best decision for me in my life.
So, it's interesting, that story, because while all of this is happening in your life, there were some things happening at the College of Staten Island as well. CSI went through some changes in administration. There was a year where Jason Fine, our former athletic director, left very abruptly at the beginning of the year. I was actually appointed the athletic director, and that year, that singular year, 08-09, was probably one of the most trying years in our history, and I remember it being especially trying for Coach Pizzuto. And in 08-09, our team suffered through a 6-20 season, and we had a Division II transfer come aboard, Gleb Napomishin, who quit or was kicked off the team.
I played against him in high school.
Yeah, for violating some team rules. We had our starting point guard, Kyle Yoakum, who we went on a trip to Chicago, came back, and he quit. We had another kid, I think it was Mike Pulsey, didn't work out. And next thing you know, we finished 6-20. And a lot of people at the college were saying, does Tony still have it? He's losing kids left and right, and the game has passed him by, and this is the first time, this is embarrassing. Had to answer all these tough questions in meetings with vice presidents and so on. So there was a lot of turmoil going on in our program as well, but one of the bright spots of that season was landing a kid like Jordan Young, who comes on, fresh face from Brick, New Jersey, one of the first, truly outside Staten Island kids to bring it, has no idea what we are, who we are, comes in, and he serves that to be that bright spot. And then second half of the season, we bring in a kid like Dale Toronto, who wasn't originally eligible, comes on board. Now all of a sudden we start building momentum. Third year into their career, now you come on board as a junior, and the tide starts to really turn. And Coach Pizzuto, I remember years later, would tell me that, you know, the great thing about having a kid like TJ come aboard at that time was because it's almost like having like an assistant coach out there on the floor. As coaches, we can only do so much. We work in practice. Once you're out, once the game starts, you let them be. You let them do what they need to do. But when you have TJ there, there's a calming effect on everything because he's almost like an extension of the staff. When you came on the team, being an adult, you know, being someone who's been around a few times, who's seen different things, and who could recognize the kind of talent that was forming at CSI, did you kind of feel like, yeah, I'm stepping into a situation here where this could be really special, and they're coming from turmoil, so they want it that much more?
Yeah, and I did think that we could be special, and I did come at a time where it seems like I had a huge impact on the change, but having Jordan there, even Mike Pan was our captain. He didn't play a lot, but he's one of the greatest teammates I've ever played with.
Positive guy.
Always positive. But I also came at a time where we did have an influx of talent. You know, Bluchie McGlure, who's now Bluchie Valbron. He, the all-time leading scorer in school history. He came at the same time. Matt Van Manen, who came at the same time. So there were a couple of guys, Luis Valdez, who we all came at the same time. I know sometimes, you know, I know all the time I get too much of the credit for being there at that time, but Jordan was already one of the best players in the league. On the court-wise, what I think it helped was that Dale had to play point guard before I came, and Dale was definitely a great point guard. But what I think he's even better at is, you know, guarding the other team's best player, which he did every night in my career, and being a secondary ball handler, not having to worry about running the team all the time, and still having the playmaking abilities that he has. I mean, he's close. He's got to be top 2 in career in steals, and his assist-to-turnover ratio was always close to 2-1. So I think we were the perfect match in the backcourt for each other. And Bluchie being a guy who wanted to score the ball, I think we really fit each other well. But when I stepped in, I think the biggest thing for me and from my standpoint, which we struggled with at first, was when we had open gyms in September and early October, was just that my major thing was that this has to be the most serious thing in the world. This is just not us playing basketball. Like, this matters. This helps us win games in February. This helps us win games. And that was kind of my thinking because I've been coaching for 3 or 4 years. So I knew how important everything was, and there was the attitude. But the one thing I know is that when I stepped in the gym, that coming off the losing years, that there wasn't a losing attitude in the gym. Nobody was just like ho-hum, like we're gonna lose this game or we're not that good. Everybody was hungry for more. And being somebody who watched Ryan Hennessy, who was a good friend of mine, and I didn't know Christian Montevino, but I seen them just finish their careers. And watching the CUNY and seeing Brooklyn College, who had won back-to-back at the time, I felt like looking around that we had the talent to compete with anybody that was in the conference, with all respect to them. So I had a lot of confidence in myself. I had a lot of confidence in Bluchie. I actually coached Bluchie and Matt Van Manen in AAU. They were on one of my first teams coaching. So I had a lot of confidence that we had the right attitude, and then we had all the confidence in the world in Jordan Young, who was our best player the 2 years. So it was great to add a little bit to the group and to watch that group get better and better. And I actually looked at our season 2 days ago, and you know, I think we lost 5 of our last 6 games. We hit a peak and we were regionally ranked, and then I think we kind of felt our oats a little bit. We started walking on the court with a little bit of arrogance, and teams just really gave it to us, which culminated in losing in the championship game. And then, you know, I missed the ECAC game against Rutgers Newark with my finger was completely messed up. But it was such a fun season, and I really believe to this day that we don't have the season we had the next year if we didn't lose the year before, because we were hungry the whole entire way. Nothing was enough for for us until we won a championship, and even when we won, that wasn't enough. So it was actually a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, and one of the really cool things, and it's a nugget of information that people wouldn't know unless they know you personally and followed your career. But at the close of your junior season at CSI, you declared for the NBA draft, and you're, I believe, in my experience, the only player from CSI to declare for the NBA draft. Now, it would have affected your amateurism if you went through with it all the way. So at the very end, on like the last day, you could withdraw. You did, but you did that for several reasons. Tell me a little bit about how does one even get the thought in their head to do something like that, and to do it alone because you can't have an agent or anything like that. And then what was the thought process of you making a move like that?
That move was actually like 5 years in the making. I follow the NBA closely, and every year they have a list of early declared student athletes, people that are juniors or younger that are declaring for the draft. And you always see their names scroll on ESPN or NBA TV, and there are other people who declare for the draft. It's not as like now today, everybody declares for the draft. The rules are a little different. But then there will be a list of 15 to 25 people in the whole country who early declared for the draft. So I always knew, or wherever I was in school, that my junior year I would declare for the draft for a couple of reasons. One, all publicity is good publicity. I really wanted to bring some light to the school, the program, because nobody really knew about us on a national scale. And to myself, I wanted to do something in the future. I wanted to coach or play in the future. So if it gave me an opportunity to not get drafted, I never thought I would get drafted. It was never, a lot of people came up to me in the street and be like, "You really think you're going to get drafted?" And the answer is no, I don't think. And I'm actually not going to be in the draft. But I remember one day just sitting watching ESPN and names scrolling on the bottom of the screen, and it said TJ Tibbs, and then it said Kemba Walker. and my phone blew up those days because my name was on ESPN constantly. And that's a really cool thing. Who can say that? And in turn, I know there was an article in Dime magazine that was a big one. I know a couple of NBA teams that reached out to Coach Pizzuto, the Spurs, the Suns, the Dallas Mavericks, and they actually evaluated my film. I actually got a couple of calls from some scouts, and they actually talked to me about things, and I really picked their brain more than they picked my brain.
Right.
I was interested in what they thought about my game and what things they thought I could work on, and it really helped me prepare for my senior season. And I actually remember sitting in your office doing an interview on speakerphone with Dime magazine, and you kind of giving me the yay or nay things to say and the answer, and that was a huge moment for myself. It definitely, I got a lot of razzing the next year from fans. So many fans would say to me like, "Hey man, what the Spurs say to you?" Or there's one guy, Joe Caff, who's a friend of mine now. He's the Baruch super fan, and every time we play Baruch, he'd be like, "You going to the league next year? Yeah, why are you still here?" And that was great because those things actually motivated me to play harder.
Sure, yeah.
And even every once in a while, I'll go out and somebody would say to me like, "You're the kid that declared for the draft, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I did." So, I don't even know if any of my kids know that. My kids, my players, but it was something thought out, and I think it turned out even better than I could imagine with the publicity that we got for the school. And you never know what position that put me in because somebody recognized my name.
Right. Yeah. No. It really is a cool moment in our history, and I remember it personally because there was a few reporters who reached out to me first, and they'd be like, "Who are you guys again? What conference are you in again?" And it would be hard to explain to them, like, "Yeah, no, this he's a player, he's a terrific talent, and we're supporting him, and then having to negotiate interviews for you, which is kind of cool. It's kind of what we aspire to do when we get into this profession as well. So that happened. happens, and then comes your senior year, and it's kind of like, it's kind of like a make or break, obviously, for you as a senior to, want to win a CUNY championship. That's what we're there to do. I feel like, Jordan is in his final season, so it's like we need to win this year. I mean, there's no two ways about it. And the way the CUNY is set up, even now, no one's getting in and at large. I think if the team the next year didn't prove that, I don't know, who can. But so you have to win the CUNYs to get to the national championship tournament, and you guys do deliver. It comes right down to the wire. It's tough. Even leading there, I think we played Baruch in the semis, if I'm not mistaken. All those games were tough, and it was a good year for the CUNY overall. But to win that championship, to come full circle, to get it done when it mattered most, how did it make you guys feel to know that you had delivered on a promise that the team held at the preseason?
It was, I don't even know if I could come up with the words now, but it was a journey. For me, it was a 6-year journey. For Jordan to go through all the losing that he went through, and to not ever know if you were going to make it past the first round, and to lose to that same team the year before, and to come back and to beat them at the buzzer, there was just so many emotions. There were so many of our fans there that had followed us for the 2 years I was there. So many people that I met. Our current president at the time was there, President Morales, and he came to a lot of games, and it was just awesome to see the look on everybody's faces. And that was a year that it's incredible because it was Time Warner Sports last year.
Right.
So they broadcasted basically all of our home games and all of our playoff games. Right. So to have that aspect was amazing, and to have that be documented was so awesome. And it was just so much hard work. And Coach Pizzuto, I remember Ryan Hennessy's freshman year watching on Time Warner when York hit the half-court shot. Rob Mezquez missed the 2 free throws. Sorry, Rob, but he missed the 2 free throws. I remember watching that because I was at Monmouth, and I came home and I watched that on demand or something. And Coach Pizzuto always talked about different things like that, and so to get one for him. I think he's one of the best coaches in college basketball history, but certainly in the CUNY conference, was just very refreshing, and it was enjoyable. It was a Friday night. As college kids, we had a great time hanging out that night and enjoying it. But Saturday morning there was a bunch of us in the gym, prepared for whatever was next, and it was a great feeling. We had a pep rally on Monday that you hosted with the cheerleaders and fans. It was just such a great time to be just a small part of CSI Athletics.
Yeah, and I think from there then came obviously the Sweet 16 run, and that run included 2 home games for the College of Staten Island in a pod that I don't know if we were selected to host or we were like
we earned it.
We earned it. Okay. We earned it. So because I wasn't sure, because I remember at the end of it, Rhode Island making a big stink, like Staten Island should never.
Right.
They were very sore.
Right.
But those 2 games at CSI, certainly a highlight of anybody who was around at that point career. You mentioned Time Warner Cable there, it being broadcast, and let me tell you who had 2 of outstanding games. This guy right here, that game against Ithaca to start was tremendous. We blew him out of the gym. And then Rhode Island, which everybody made us the underdog. I think D3 Hoops had Rhode Island, going much farther than us. Who was Staten Island? The CUNY will never win the second round game. And it was a close game. It was a good game, but we were up pretty much wire to wire. And you went off 40 points. Remains a postseason high of any player, and we're talking about a really rich history of basketball on Staten Island. The crowd chanting your name when you went down with an injury. You can hear a pin drop when you fell down, and then TJ. I mean, you can feel the bleachers kind of vibrating. And every made shot. I mean, it was just a magical time. And I wonder, as a player, if you're recognizing it in the moment that something special is happening, or does it come after?
Honestly, in the moment, you're just trying to do everything you can to win the game. The Ithaca game, to this day, I really think that was the best game I ever played in college. Wasn't the most points I scored. It was the most assists I've had, but I think it was the best overall game that I personally played and the one I'm the most proud of. Playing in that Rhode Island game, I'm somebody that doesn't pride myself. I'm not a scorer. There's been many games I've had 2 or 3. I've taken only 4 shots. I pride myself on trying to play the game, whatever the game needs that day. Our best 2 players were Bluchy McGlure and Jordan Young. And Jordan was in foul trouble. He had to deal with this kid, Mike Akinrola, who was 6'9", senior, was one of the best players in the country. So he got in early foul trouble, and then every time he came back in and did something, he basically got in more foul trouble. Bluchy he just didn't have a Bluchy night at all. After having a great night, having 24, I believe, the previous night. So I was out there with a bunch of Lamique Black, who didn't play the night before, who was playing great. Dylan Bolger, who hadn't played in a while, who contributed. Matt Van Manen, Javon Cox, who was a freshman. And I was just looking around the court, and they kept looking at me and telling me, like, you got to go. You got to score. And, I was just hot that night. The basket really looked like an ocean. After each shot, I just felt more confident. The guys on the bench were gassing me up and just telling me, these guys can't guard you. Like, just go take every shot. And that was giving me the confidence to go out there and keep going. And that year, for whatever reason, one reason or another, we couldn't figure it out. Helene, who was our trainer at the time, who was excellent, she would always give me these electrolyte pills before the game. I cramped in a bunch of games during that, especially when I felt I was exerting a lot of energy. And it was really hot in the gym because there were so many people there. And I remember hitting a pull-up jump shot, and in the middle of the jump shot, I just felt my calf just tighten up. And I was laying on the ground, and I was like, not now. There's only like 2 minutes left. We were only up by like 4 points. And I was ready to cry because it takes so long for the cramp to subside that I knew that if I didn't have 5 minutes, 7 minutes of real time, I wouldn't be able to get back into the game. So I laid there. Everybody knew I was cramping, on my team at least. And I looked Helene dead in the eye and I said, do not move me for a while. Do not move me. Do not get me up, because it's going to subside, but I need it to subside while the game is being held up. So we went through a bunch of BS tests, and the refs were really good about, is it his ankle, is it his knee? And, we took a lot of time, and my teammates carried me off the court, and I tried to walk right back to the scores table, and I told Coach Pizzuto, said, put me in, period. And we had 1 timeout left, and he called timeout to get me back in the game. I still felt a little weak in the calf, but there was nothing that was going to stop me from playing. Like, they would have had to literally pull me off the floor. But you don't really realize a special moment even for the program until after the buzzer goes off and you start to look around and see everybody. And then Coach Bob Walsh, who was the head coach there, and they have been to the Sweet 16, I think, the previous 3 years. So this was an expectation for them to win the game. He's somebody I still can communicate with today. He's on Providence's coaching staff. He has said to me, like, man, that was one of the best performances against one of my teams ever. You guys are ready. You can do it in the Sweet in the next round. And that's when it really hit me. Because honestly, I was a kid that followed Division I sports like most people. I mean, I didn't really know the difference between Rhode Island College and Duke. To me, it was all the same. We beat Wesleyan for the second game of my career, and Coach Pizzuto kept saying, you don't know what we just did. I'm like, that's just another team. I didn't realize like the history of their program and everything. I had no idea. And I think that was just, that ignorance was great for us, because we didn't fear anybody. We didn't look at the history of what they did. We just went out there and said, well, we're the best players on the court, we're the best team, and we can do that. So just the fact that all that was documented is just something that I can never forget, and I'm glad that so many of us were able to share in that moment.
Yeah, it was really an awesome time, and it's hard to believe we've been talking for so long, TJ, that we haven't even started to discuss coaching yet. So we still have plenty of questions for you. But I think what we should do is we'll take a break. This way you can concentrate on your meal. We can finish what's in front of us, and then we'll take another few minutes and talk about the coaching part of your career.
Sounds good.
All right. So when we come back, more with TJ Tibbs, head coach for men's basketball here at the College of Staten Island. You're watching The Coaches Show right here on CSI Sports Net.
The Kettle Black on Staten Island, a top 5 wing joint in America by Food and Wine magazine. Serving daily lunch and dinner at the bar or on the floor. Perfect for family and group parties with top shelf drink and delicious food. From great times with good friends. Live sports and watch parties. To Staten Island's hottest nightlife. The Kettle Black features live music and DJs weekly. The Kettle Black features daily and nightly food and drink specials. The best Staten Island has to offer is at the Kettle Black. We'll see you there at the Kettle Black, located on 415 Forest Avenue, Staten Island.
Cobra, a taco joint, Staten Island, where we're proud to have shared our family-first spirit with people from throughout New York City and the world. With indoor dining available both at the bar and on the floor. Or step outside for additional seating and an outdoor bar. Serving beer that's crisp, ice cold, and worthy of a day at the beach. Cocktails that explode with flavor. And great food made with the freshest and healthiest ingredients available. Events feature food and drink specials. Live music. And the best of Staten Island nightlife. Your CSI Student ID saves you 10% on your dining order at Hobra. Visit us at 412 Forest Avenue, Staten Island.
Welcome back to the Coaches Show here on CSI Sportsnet, broadcasting live on CSIDolphins.com and of course on YouTube, our CSI Sportsnet channel. This month we're speaking to men's basketball head coach TJ Tibbs. And TJ, we've been talking so much about your playing career at the college and of course before that even. Let's talk a little bit now about the coaching bug that started pretty much immediately. And you even mentioned coaching high school even before coming to play for CSI. So the coaching bug has always existed. And you also bounced around from place to place there as well. You spent some time with NJIT, Division I level, spent a good chunk of time at Baruch College back in the CUNY as an assistant. Tell me a little bit about your game plan going into coaching and what the end results were when you first got started and how that kind of trajectory has continued.
Yeah, so I started coaching basketball when I was 18. I used to drive back from Monmouth. Mike Neely, senior, gave me a chance to coach the Staten Island Stingrays AAU program. And I always knew I wanted to coach college basketball. When I was younger, 18, 22, 23, 24, if you asked me, all I wanted to do was be a Division I head coach. I wanted to find a path to do that. And the more and more I spoke to people, everybody talked about you had to know somebody had to help you, you had to get on with somebody who could help you. And I didn't know anybody. My dad coached youth sports, so he didn't have any connections in college. I always asked Coach Pizzuto. He only knew a couple of people above the Division III level. And to his credit, he presented a couple of Division III like grad assistant opportunities, but I felt like when I played that I had to be at the Division I level to get to that level. So I emailed, between my junior and senior years, I emailed over 350 coaches to offer my services to volunteer when I graduated. I knew that you might have to work for free or work for very little, so I just wanted everybody to know that I was very willing to do that. And I only got 3 responses, and I won't say who they are. I still know who they are to this day. But all 3 of them responded just that they wouldn't have anything, but thanks for emailing. And it was very discouraging. I didn't know what I was going to end up doing. But then I had reached out to Coach Jim Engels at NJIT, and he's a St. Peter's grad, and we had a former St. Peter's player over there, Ryan Woods, and I kept texting him. He's one of my good friends. He's like, hey man, if there's anything open there, I will come, I will do anything. I'll mop the floors, I'll do anything. And fortunately, the St. Peter's connection is really strong, so I'm proud of being a graduate. So he had knew of my name, he had kind of a little bit like looked into me in high school when he was coaching. And he had reached back out to me and invited me to come and just to talk. And I went up to talk to him a couple of times, and then he finally offered me a position to be the director of operations for his program, for a grand total of $0 a year. And I accepted it before I even called my parents. And I was excited. I had moved out to the area to live in the dorms, and I worked my butt off. I worked 60 hours a week for Coach Jim Engels, who's an amazing person and coach, on the staff with Coach Brian Kennedy, who's the current NJIT coach since Jim Engels coaches at Columbia, Coach Jesse Agel, who used to be the head coach at Brown, and so I was around 3 head coaches every single day. I also worked with Mike Brown, who was assistant coach and played at Providence. So I learned so much every single day. And being director of operations, for anybody who doesn't know, you're basically, people used to ask me, well, what do you do? And I said, anything but coach basketball. Sweep floors, mop floors, travel, make sure everybody's in the right places, order food. All the stuff, in all honesty, you don't want to do. You just want to coach basketball. I was not allowed to be on the court during practice. I was not allowed to actually coach. I can't recruit. So it was really, really tough year, and it tested me mentally. But I felt like I was contributing, even if it was a little bit, to helping the coaches do their job better. After that, John Alisi had called me. I was sitting in my office and had told me that he had an open spot on his staff. And I really balked at it at first because I was really concerned about going to the Division III level and not be able to get back to Division I. I didn't have a lot of mentors or people to bounce this around. So I went inside with John. We had lunch. He showed me the scouting reports that they do, and he really ran it like a Division I program. And we didn't know each other well at all, but we're Staten Islanders, so we had a lot of respect. My junior year, the Hunter team that he coached wasn't that great talent-wise. I think anybody could say that, but he did such an amazing job with them, got them to the semis. They actually should have won the game versus Medgar. So I had so much respect for how he coached, even though I didn't know much about him. So when I went back to NJIT, I spoke with Jim Engels, and I said, Coach, I think this is a great opportunity. I think I'll learn a lot, and I'll be able to go out and coach and recruit, but I don't know if I'll get back to Division I. And he looked me dead in my eye. He said, you're great at what you do, your personality and what you do, you'll get back. You'll have an opportunity to get back. And that gave me a lot of confidence. So I took that job, coached with John for 3 years. Actually kind of 2.5 years. We won a championship my first year. It was excellent. We lost in the championship my second year. We were the 5 seed, and John did such an amazing job in the playoffs with matchups to get us to the championship. And Brooklyn avenged their loss the year before. And then in the middle of my third year, I had a unique situation. We actually just lost to CSI, and it was my scout, so I was kicking myself in the butt. Losing to, actually Frankie Schettino was hurt, he didn't play. So Vinny DeCanto had an awesome game as a point guard. And I got a call that there was an opportunity at Mount St. Vincent. They had lost their coach, and they were looking for somebody to fill in for the rest of their 8 games. And long story short, I got hired there. On a Friday, we had practice from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock. We had a game the next day at 12 at home, and we won the game. And they were going through such a tough season, and we just talked about, we had an outside chance at the playoffs, and we just talked about giving it our all and trying to make the playoffs. And we actually went 4-4 in my time there. I had a bunch of amazing relationships I still have with people that I coached there, and actually 2 of the kids that I coached there are on the team now, Austin Mick and Christian Kopek, and that was an amazing opportunity. And at the end of the year, I wanted to put my hat in the ring to be the head coach there. And I actually wasn't offered an opportunity to interview there. And not to say that because I'm not bitter or anything. Everything happens for a reason. And I was grateful for the 8 games opportunity. They didn't have to give me that. But I think it's important anybody to tell the story about, I didn't even get a chance to really prove myself for the job. Even though I thought, man, we went 4-4. In the short time, I didn't have any assistant coaches. I think I at least get a chance, and I didn't. So I actually, when I got the phone call that I wasn't gonna get an interview, I hung up the phone. I told my now fiance, I said, I'm done with coaching. I'm done. I'm just so frustrated. I don't know how I'm ever gonna get a chance. If I can't get a chance after that, then forget it. I spend so many long days and nights. We're not making any money. I'm losing money every year. It's time that I just get on and just focus on my career. And I was angry. I was very angry. and I didn't know what to do. So I wasn't looking for any jobs. I did not care. I was done. And then one fateful day, JC Albano, who's my former teammate who now coaches with me, gave me a text and said, Coach Pizzuto stepped down. And I think I wrote back something like, LOL, step down what? Like, from working out, like, because he works out every day. And he told me that he stepped down. I heard he stepped down. I called Coach immediately. He didn't answer, but he called me back, and he told me it was true. And I was crying my eyes out on the phone because you play for Coach Pizzuto, you just think that he's an institution, like he's never gonna leave. So it was a very hard moment for me, but with all that upsetness I had, he turned to telling me that I want you to go for the job. I'm putting a recommendation in for you, and I want you to try to be the next coach. And that meant a lot because when we were competing against each other when I was at Baruch, it was very hard. There was a time where I thought I would never talk to Coach Pizzuto again because you compete against somebody that you love and you care about. It's very difficult. I go through it now with John Alisi. We compete and it's just not fun. So I had to really think, and I know you were part of the committee, and I wasn't going to apply for the job because I honestly, me being a confident person, I could not take the heartbreak of not getting a job at a place I really cared about. I wasn't ready to go through that again, but my parents and my friends and my fiance, who was my girlfriend at the time, really said, no, you have to do this. You're perfect for this. And that's when I got the opportunity to get the job, and fortunately I was welcomed back to my alma mater.
Yeah, so it's great how things kind of come full circle, like we were saying before, and now it comes full circle coaching-wise too. That you're coaching at your alma mater, a place that kind of gave you a second chance on basketball playing, and now is giving you a second chance coaching as well. And then your first season you win the CUNY championship. Second season you make the CUNY championship, so your string of always being in the CUNY championship continues. And then in year 3, we get the call that we're moving up divisions to Division 2. So now you're not only a college coach, but now you're a Division 2 head coach. And we've had offline conversations, even with Charles, obviously, and Erin in our office about none of us have really traversed this before. So it's all new. It's all it's all a learning experience for everyone. And so how has that process been treating you?
Thank you very much. It's been, I'll tell you what, it's just been an incredible year. Both there's been so many highs and so many lows because you're trying to compete this year, because competing is the most important thing to me and to the guys. You're trying to prepare for the future, and you could never be totally ready for the future. And it's so much that you have to look ahead to 2 years, 3 years, 4 years ahead just to feel like you're on stable ground. You're adjusting to all the new rules and all the other administrative stuff that goes along with that. And you're trying to reestablish yourself and your brand amongst people out there, whether it's recruiting or fans, of who we are and who we're going to be as a Division II program. And then you still got to play basketball games with that. And the one thing I made clear to everybody was that I know this is an exciting time for our school and for our athletic program, but I still have kids on my roster that will never compete for a championship again. That's their last season. My seniors now, James Delahanty is a 4-year stalwart in our program. All he knows is going to the CUNY championship. He's won 2 and he's lost 1. And now we don't have a chance to go. So a lot of my kids in general were just unsure how they wanted to go about the season. If they wanted to still play,
Sure.
If it even really mattered. And these are real feelings and emotions that, as a coach, every game matters to us. But, they're 18 to 20-year-old kids, and most of them are not going to have any future in basketball. So putting all the time, especially with the new rules, and we could work out in September, they weren't sure that they really wanted to do that, and I respected that. Just looking at everything and being how the school has helped me as a student and as a man, I'm excited to get kids from other places to experience Staten Island, the community, the pulled pork sandwich at Kettle Black, and just really know that what we're about. So our reach is going to be able to be wider, So I'm excited about that, but my main concern now is just taking care of the kids that are on the roster now, while still doing my job to prepare for the future.
Sure, and it's not so much internally, because I think everybody at CSI understands that the transition period is going to be a tough one, whether we're successful in the win-loss column or not. Once we do make that jump to a full D2 schedule for all of our sports, we're going to take lumps. There's no question. We're going to hit on some recruits. We're going to miss on others. It's just the way it's going to be. But when you coach a high-profile sport like a basketball, it's not the same as tennis or volleyball or swimming. And it's not to take anything away from those sports, but when you lose games, people notice. And your team this season is going through a tough season. And you could say, obviously, our best returning players redshirting, coming off surgery in Christian, Shamal, our dynamic freshman, also being redshirted, didn't really bring in any new faces. So all of that contributes, and everybody is sympathetic to that. But at the end of the day, men's basketball is a high-profile sport, not only at the College of Staten Island, but on Staten Island in general. Mm-hmm. It makes headlines, and when you have a tough season, people begin to ask questions, similar to what I said about Tony back in 08-09. So how do you combat that? Do you feel that pressure? Do you see that pressure? Do you anticipate those questions coming? How do you kind of handle that?
It's a great question. I'm glad we're talking about that. I feel that I'm impervious to any pressure, because nobody can have higher expectations for me than me. So even the year we won a championship and make it to the championship last year, I still feel like we underachieved. I still feel like I had to do a better job. And I feel that way this year. I've said it publicly so many times that I haven't done a great job with this team. For whatever you want to say, we don't have this one. People go through injuries. People go through stuff. So we have to win with the roster we have. Nobody was saying that when we were picked 5th in the first year, and we still won. That was a positive thing. People were saying we didn't have a lot of talent, but we won. So people wanted to spin that as a positive. So I don't really look for outside criticism. I don't really care about outside criticism. I only care about the people that are within the walls of our program and the kids. So what I know and what I'm proud of is that every night I feel like our kids are competing and they're playing hard. Are we behind the 8 ball with a couple of things? Yeah, I mean, we knew that going in. We purposely didn't add anybody else new to the roster for a lot of different reasons. We wanted to make sure this year was about the kids, and especially about the seniors, because there's only, I think, 2 kids on our roster that will be able to compete for a championship at any point. So this year is more about them. We still prepare the same. We practice the same. We try to do the same things. But you got to give credit to the teams that we've played. I mean, they've really just gotten the best of us. Even though right now we don't have a great record, and we all would like to be better, and I don't sleep any better because this is a transition year or anything. It still kills me. And I know a lot of times we lose a game at home, and you guys are there late all the time, and I'm leaving late, and it's tough. We're just trying to figure it out. But I haven't done the greatest of jobs with the team, but I am thankful and blessed that I'm able to go through something like this year, because it has taught me a lot about myself, and it has made me grow. We've done a lot of different things on the court that I think as a basketball coach I would never be into doing, but it's helping us get closer to winning a basketball game. So we have to be flexible in our approach. And when we do have more talent, we still are going to have the same problems. It's just not going to look it's not going to be as crazy. We're a winning program at CSI, and I'm an alum, so I know the history thoroughly. So nobody wants to win more than me, but at the same time, we have to continue to go about the work. Nobody knows what this is, whether we win or we lose, and I'm as proud, if not even more proud, of how our kids are playing than when we lost at the buzzer Cabrini in the NCAA tournament. So, and that's the truth. Our kids play hard all the time, and honestly, they have no reason to play hard. They don't. That's just the human element of it. They just could be happy to just be out there, but they give me their full attention and effort every single day. I push them hard, and I just have a group of amazing kids. So we're going to continue to keep fighting, and we're going to continue to try to win some basketball games.
Great. Well, TJ, we have dessert coming, and when that comes, we usually try to keep it light and have some fun with you. But let me end with this one question before that happens, and that is, the college basketball on the recruiting scene, players have a lot of choices. They got a lot of promises that are being made of them, and obviously now that we're a Division II schools, a lot of different offers out there. Any kid worth their stock on the court is going to do their homework and try to find out more about the person that they're committing to playing for 4 years. So they're probably going to watch this, or at least I'd hope they would, to learn more about you. What do you have to say to those recruits out there that are being recruited by you, and the program that they're stepping into, the values that they're going to learn here at the college, and what you want for them at the end of a 4-year career here?
Which one's my camera?
This one is your sole camera. That one is the two of us, but this is the one.
Okay, here we go. So anybody who's interested in playing at the College of Staten Island, I want you to know a couple of things. Number one, if you get me or my coaching staff for 4 years, you get us for life, whether you like it or not. I'm somebody who coaches college basketball and at the College of Staten Island because I thoroughly care about turning young men into men. Our number one rule in our program is respect women, because I think that how you treat women is a great reflection of how you are as a man. Basketball is extremely important to me and extremely important to everybody around in our program, but at the same time, everything else matters. You can get a degree anywhere, and we have so many great programs. We're not the only school that can give you or your child a degree, but what you're going to get from us and myself and our basketball program and our athletic department is an education. We're going to educate you on how to be a man. We're going to put you in situations where you have opportunities to meet people of importance. We're going to put you in situations like I was as a student athlete here, where I could be in front of a camera and work on my skills and be so comfortable sitting here and speaking. Public speaking, looking somebody in the eye is very important to me. Walking into a room and saying hello to people is very important to me. And you're going to be held to an incredible standard every single day. This program is not for everybody, and college fit is extremely important. There's a lot of transferring going on in the world because people don't do their homework on fit, and we try to give you the most information you can, not something that's going to lead you to making a decision for us. We gave you the most honest information. If you fit in our program, it'll be the best 4 years of your life. But honestly, it's also going to be the hardest 4 years, or actually the hardest period of your life ever. That's the only thing that I promise to anybody, is that if you come to this program, it's going to be the hardest thing you ever do in your life. And some people are willing to embrace that, and some people are not willing to embrace that, and that's fine. Our program isn't a fit for everybody. But what we're a championship program in Division III, and God willing, when the time comes, we'll be a championship program in Division II. And being that we're men's basketball and with basketball, like Dave said, here in the program, we need to be ambassadors to the community. You're gonna walk around the College of Staten Island, and you're gonna walk around Staten Island with your hoodie on that says Staten Island basketball, and people are gonna know who you are. And you have a duty, and it's your right to make sure you represent yourself, your family, and our department in the best way possible. You also have a duty to be a role model for the little kids that come to our game. That is the most important thing. If you're not ready for that, that doesn't make you a bad person, but that's the responsibility and duty you have being in our program. I'm so fired up and excited to be the person that's leading this program going forward, and being supported by the administrators such as Dave, such as Aaron, such as Charles, everybody that go down the line all the way up to President Fritz. I'm so excited I've been chosen to lead my alma mater, and anybody that comes in as a part of the program is going to be grateful for 30, 40, 50 years from now. We have a great alumni base. They come around all the time, and everybody just supports each other. So being that we're a Division II program, we're recruiting a different caliber of athlete, student athlete, but we're recruiting the same caliber of person. That doesn't change. You either fit with us or you don't. You're either a great person and want to do great things for other people and understand that it takes what it takes, and that you have to be extremely humble and hungry every single day in your approach. You're not a professional when you start getting paid for doing what you do. You're a professional in your approach from day one. So I don't know if I really answered your question, but I have a lot of pride in this program, and nothing's going to change as far as the type of people we have, except for the level of talent that we bring into the program.
That's very well said, TJ, and it's really easy for guys like me to get fired up when you guys are fired up, and when our coaching staff approaches their craft the way you do, and the way your assistants do, because they're a huge part of this program, and you always emphasize that as well. Your kids are great kids, your assistant coaches are great coaches, and you, my friend, are a great ambassador to our program. I'm proud to call myself an alum like you, and I'm proud that we share that, and I'm proud that we share the logos that are on our lapels day to day. So our entire thanks from all of us, obviously, at the College of Staten Island, for being a part of our program and for spending an hour with us here on the Coaching Show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I appreciate Kettle Black for the food. This has been, you had me emotional a couple of spots. I'm very happy I held it together, but I just love this place, and obviously I have a lot of admiration for you. So I'm glad selfishly, sorry, Joe, but I'm glad selfishly that I'm sitting here doing this with you, and this is something I'm going to cherish.
Well, I appreciate that very much. TJ, stick around at the end of this break. When we come back, we have a little dessert planned for us, and we'll ask you some lighthearted questions, get to know you a little bit more than what we know already. So stay with us. It's the February edition of the Coaches Show right here on CSI Sportsnet.
The Kettle Black on Staten Island, a top 5 wing joint in America by Food and Wine magazine. Serving daily lunch and dinner at the bar or on the floor. Perfect for family and group parties with top shelf drink and delicious food. From great times with good friends. Live sports and watch parties. To Staten Island's hottest nightlife. The Kettle Black features live music and DJs weekly. The Kettle Black features daily and nightly food and drink specials. The best Staten Island has to offer is at the Kettle Black. We'll see you there at the Kettle Black, located on 415 Forest Avenue, Staten Island.
Cobra, a taco joint, Staten Island, where we're proud to have shared our family-first spirit with people from throughout New York City and the world. With indoor dining available both at the bar and on the floor. Or step outside for additional seating and an outdoor bar. Serving beer that's crisp, ice cold, and worthy of a day at the beach. Cocktails that explode with flavor. And great food made with the freshest and healthiest ingredients available. Events feature food and drink specials. Live music. And the best of Staten Island nightlife. Your CSI Student ID saves you 10% on your dine-in order at Hobra. Visit us at 412 Forest Avenue, Staten Island.
Welcome back here to the Coaches Show right here on CSI Sportsnet. As you can see from what's on the table, dessert has been served. And usually when that happens, TJ, we get right into asking you some lighthearted questions. We have 3 segments in our final segment. One of them is Know Your Sport. So we're going to ask you 5 questions. We're going to see if you know the answer, and we'll see how well you know CSI basketball. The second is a little bit about me, where I'll ask you what your favorite things are, and you can tell me what your favorite things are. And then I'll ask you which is better. I'll give you a choice between 2 things. You can tell me which you prefer better, and we'll get to learn a lot more about TJ Tibbs. So, TJ, our first category is Know Your Sport. I'm going to ask you again 5 questions. We'll see how many out of 5 you get correct. Okay, so here's question number 1. You took over for longtime head coach Tony Pizzuto, but which coach did Tony take over for way back in 1989?
89, I want to say he took over for Coach Pickman?
It was not Coach Pickman. It was Howie Rupert.
I was going to say Howie.
Rupert.
I should know that. I'm a St. Peter's guy.
All right, question number 2. TJ, in 2012, you set a record since broken with 14 assists in a single game. Who did you set that record against?
Ithaca.
It was Ithaca, and you mentioned that during the interview. Yes. So you hit it. You had 14 in that game, and since broken by
3 or 4 times he's broken it. Yeah.
17 he had twice. All right. Question 3. Bluchy McGlure broke the school's scoring record with 1,822 points. Whose record did he surpass?
Michael Stewart, 18. How many did Bluchy have?
1822.
1819?
1819 is correct. That's right. Question 4. CSI has won 15 CUNY titles. They've beaten 5 teams twice, but only 1 team 3 times. Which is it?
1 team 3 times. So 5 teams twice, 1 team 3 times. It's not Medgar. Wow. That's a great question. I'm going to have to go. This is a shot in the dark. I'm going to have to go with York.
That is incorrect. They beat Lehman for the 3rd time, your rookie year as head coach. Other than that,
great question.
89, 85, 89, and 2018. Okay, last question. Which legendary CSI coach is the only CSI head coach to guide the Dolphins when they were both Staten Island Community College and the College of Staten Island?
I'm going to again go with Coach Pickman.
That time, Coach Evan Pickman is correct. So 3 out of 5. Not bad, TJ.
Not bad.
All right, so now it's a little bit about you. I'm going to ask you what your favorite things are, and you just shout them out. All right. My favorite musical artist is?
It's my cousin, Chris Valentine.
Okay. My favorite athlete is?
My father.
My favorite movie is?
Man. It's He Got Game.
He Got Game, okay. My favorite vacation spot is?
It always will be, and it still is any gym.
Cool. My favorite TV show is?
Entourage.
Okay. We didn't get to this during the interview, but you have a fascination with sauces, fast food dipping sauces. My favorite fast food dipping sauce is?
Polynesian sauce from Chick-fil-A, but making a strong push right now is the new barbecue sauce from Wendy's.
Nice. And it's new. Who knows that but you? Okay. My favorite subject in school was?
Math.
Math, okay. And my favorite holiday is?
Somebody doesn't really celebrate holidays, but I just started now that I'm engaged, so I'm going to have to say it's going to be Christmas Eve because we're going to host that at our house.
Awesome. Okay, finally, which is better? I'm going to give you a choice between 2. You tell me which you prefer. Bus trips or plane trips?
Bus.
Summer or winter?
Summer.
This is a layup. Action or comedy?
Comedy.
NBA Finals or Super Bowl?
NBA Finals.
Concert or karaoke? This guy likes to sing.
It's karaoke.
Morning person or night owl?
Night owl.
Jordan or James?
Jordan Young, but Michael Jordan.
Yeah. And buzzer beater or half court shot to win? I'm sorry, slam dunk or half court shot?
Half court.
Half court shot it is. Well, TJ, thank you so much for playing. Our dessert here is melting. Joe's salivating. So let's get into this while we say goodbye to everybody. TJ, I want to thank you again for coming on the show.
Thanks for
This has been an eye-opener for us, as it always is, and a great time to spend about an hour here at the famous Kettle Black here on the iconic Forest Avenue Strip. I want to thank owner Rob Cassatelli and everybody here at the Kettle Black for having us, for Joe Foreman behind the camera, for TJ Tibbs. This is David Pizzuto saying so long, and join us next month for another show, the Coaches Show, right here on CSI Sportsnet.